In this video, I'm going to be showing you the best bulker equipment combinations from level 25 equipment all the way up to level 43 equipment, for both spenders as well as for non-spenders. Apart from that, I'll also be covering Godfather's equipment, Roadsters, Emblems, as well as Armaments. This is going to be a long video, so I'll leave timestamps in the description below if you want to skip to the parts that you're the most interested in. First, let's take a look at the different types of buffs and multipliers that you can get on your equipment. There are three types of buffs. Basic buffs that you get from all pieces of equipment, set buffs that you get from equipping multiple pieces of equipment from a specific set, and alteration buffs that you get from certain high-level equipment like the Ultimate and Governor sets, and also from blue or higher quality Godfather's equipment. There are also certain multipliers in the game that you get from certain vigilantes, investments, hitman services, and Elite 6 pawnbroker, the battle fanaticism skill, and also from augmentation. Apart from the augmentation multiplier, all the other multipliers boost the basic buffs as well as the alteration buffs of your equipment, but none of them boost your set buffs. In case of the augmentation multiplier, that only works on your basic buffs and not on the alteration buffs. To give you an example of how this works, let's say I have a Godfather's coat that gives me 20,000 ops capacity as its basic buff, as well as 17,033 ops capacity as the alteration buff. Each augmentation level increases the base stats by 5%. So if I augment it to level 16, that'll make its base stats go up by 80%, and hence the basic ops capacity buff increases by 16,000, which is 80% of 20,000. However, the alteration buffs remain unchanged. I also get a 14% buff from other sources like vigilante skills, investments, and hitman services. This buff boosts not only the basic ops capacity by 2,800, which is 14% of 20,000, but also the alteration ops capacity by 2,384, which is 14% of 17,033. The same also applies to other stats like crew attack and defense. 10% basic crew attack will get an 80% buff from augmentation, increasing it by 8%, which is 80% of 10%. It gets another 14% buff from other sources, further increasing it by 1.4%, which is 14% of 10%. Though the alteration buff that gives me 8.11% biker defense will only go up by 1.14%, which is 14% of 8.11%. The 80% augmentation buff does not apply to it. For set buffs, the multipliers do not apply, so I've ignored them in my example. Hope this makes it clear how buffs and their multipliers work for equipment. There are also certain emblem and armament buffs that you can get from the Hitman agency, which simply buff their base stats in the same way augmentation cards do for equipment. So if you have an armament that gives 28.1% biker attack and a 10% armament buff from hitman services, that 28.1% will become 30.91%, and the set buffs will remain unchanged. In the same way, if you have an emblem that gives 25% biker attack, that will become 27.5% with a 10% buff and 30% with a 20% emblem buff. Currently, the max buff you can get on a Godfather's equipment emblem is 10%, and for emblems engraved on other equipment, the max is 20%. Now that we know how buffs and their multipliers work, let's take a look at bulker equipment for various levels. I'll be showing you the stats that you can get from unbuffed golden quality equipment, as well as the stats that you can get from the same equipment with maxed buffs. If you want to download this spreadsheet and customize it for your own buffs, it'll be available on my Patreon, link in the description. The first set is for players that are just starting off. They can use a bunch of level 25 equipment which only requires 17 gems per piece to make. For the gun, you'd want to use the level 25 SRM M1216, which gives 10.88% bulker attack. For your weapon, you'd want to use the level 25 military knuckle, which also gives 10.88% bulker attack. For accessories, you'd want to use the level 25 silver ring, which again gives 10.88% bulker attack. And for shoes, you'd want to use the level 25 Oxford shoes, which gives another 10.88% bulker attack. For clothes, you can use the level 25 Terrorizer suit, which gives 12% bulker attack. Now, you can get slightly more stats by using more level 25 Terrorizer pieces like the Terrorizer's rifle, brass knuckle, and shoes, which give 12% each. But I wouldn't recommend doing that as it's quite expensive and complicated to make the Terrorizer's equipment, and once you get to level 30, you'll be able to make normal pieces of equipment that give more than 12% stats. For pants, you can use anything because none of the pants that can be made for free in the game give you bulker attack. In case you don't know how to make set equipment, I have a separate video showing you just that. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. If you're just starting off, I wouldn't recommend trying to get golden quality from the start since that'll be very time consuming. Instead, you should start off with purple quality, and then once you have the gems, you can upgrade to orange and then eventually to gold. The next set is the level 30 set where you'd want to upgrade your SRM to the level 30 JS submachine gun, your military knuckle to the level 30 silver knuckle, your silver ring to the level 30 gold watch, and your Oxford shoes to the level 30 French leather shoes, which give 12.48% bulker attack each. After that, there's the level 35 set where you'd want to use the level 35 MP5 submachine gun, the Desert Eagle, the Diamond Watch, and Lavish leather shoes, which give 14.08% bulker attack each. Then there's the level 40 set where you'd want to upgrade to the Uzi, the Trident folding knife, and the Tanzanite ring while keeping the level 35 Lavish leather shoes. Finally, if you can upgrade to the level 43 set, then you'd want to use the S&W M500 revolver that gives 18.88% bulker attack. So those are all the equipment combinations that non-spenders can use. Now let's take a look at some of the combinations for spenders. If you can invest in the level 30 Massacre set, then you'd want to use the Massacre ring, coat, and boots, which give 17.5% bulker attack each. If you can invest in the Dominance set, then you'd want to use the Dominance brass knuckle and the Dominance hat, which give 19.5% bulker attack each. If you can upgrade to the Warlord set, then there are two different stats you can focus on, bulker attack and bulker defense. If you want to increase bulker attack, then you'd want to use the Warlord Sigma Ring and the Warlord Tactical Pants, which give you a total of 127.58% bulker attack when used with other bulker equipment mentioned earlier. If you want to increase bulker defense, then you'd want to add in the Warlord Fur Coat and the Warlord Military Boots along with the ring and pants. This combination should give you a total of 92.58% bulker attack and 40.68% bulker defense. Then there's the Supreme set. Again, you can optimize it either for bulker attack or for bulker defense. If you're going for bulker attack, then you'd want to use the Supreme Machete, Vest, and Boots. This combination should bring your bulker attack up to 149.66% and should also give you an extra 34.86% bulker defense. If you want to optimize for bulker defense, then you'd want to use the Supreme Rifle and Machete along with 4 other Warlord pieces. This combination will give you 70.54% bulker defense and 70.58% bulker attack. I don't think it's worth it though since you're giving up too much bulker attack in the process. Then there's the Ultimate set. If you want to optimize for bulker attack, then you'd want to use the Ultimate Knife, Jacket, and Boots, which give a total of 184.08% bulker attack and 38% bulker defense. If you want to optimize for bulker defense, then you'd want to use 4 ultimate pieces along with the Warlord Coat and Boots. This combination will give you 112.68% bulker defense, 31% bulker attack, and -9% enemy crew defense reduction. So those are all the ways you can use set equipment. Now let's take a look at Roadsters. There are a lot of Roadsters that give you bulker stats, and the cheapest one is Ladybug, which costs just 1,312 Roadster points and gives 2% bulker defense. Then you have White Shadow, which gives 1% bulker attack and defense, Icy Babe, which gives 2% bulker attack. Then there's the Knight, which is a really good Roadster for beginners as it gives 4% bulker attack as well as defense. Then you have DeLorean, which gives 6% bulker attack and defense. Then there's Ignite, which gives 7% bulker attack and 10% bulker defense. After that, there's Lady Silver, which gives 10% bulker attack and defense. Black Hector, which gives 11% bulker attack and 16% bulker defense. Then you'd want to upgrade to White Stallion, which gives 13% bulker attack and 20% bulker defense. After that, you'd want to jump to Silent Walker, which gives 15% bulker attack and 20% bulker defense, followed by Night Ripper, which gives 15% bulker attack but a whopping 45% bulker defense. Then you can switch to Harley Quinn, which gives 16% bulker attack and 50% bulker defense. After that, you can use Stormbreaker, which not only gives 16% bulker attack and 60% bulker defense, but also gives 10% bulker health. Then you can switch to Twilight Blade, which doesn't give any bulker health but does give 36% bulker attack, 65% bulker defense, and 10,000 ops capacity. After that, you can go to Black Light, which gives 36% bulker attack, 70% bulker defense, minus 18% enemy biker attack, and 12,000 more ops capacity. Then you can upgrade a Slingshot, which gives 18% bulker attack from the regular buffs and 23% from the alteration buffs, making the total bulker attack 41%. You can also get 70% bulker defense, 15% bulker health, minus 20% enemy biker attack, and 15,000 crime ops capacity. I added 23% bulker attack since this is a video on bulker equipment. However, I'd personally add a 25,000 ops capacity increase from the alteration buffs instead of bulker attack. Finally, you'd want to upgrade to Hellfire, which gives 83% bulker attack including the alteration buffs, 50% bulker defense, 17% bulker health, minus 30% enemy biker attack, and 17,000 ops capacity. Again, I'd prefer getting the 27,000 ops capacity buff instead of the 25% bulker attack buff. The last Roadster is Poison Ivy, but I wouldn't recommend using that for normal battles as it's specifically for the Conqueror's Path event, so it should only be used there. Now that I've covered Roadsters, let's move on to Godfather's equipment. There are 4 pieces of Godfather's equipment that you can use to get bulker attack. The level 25, 30, 35, and 42 Godfather's equipment. I personally prefer using the level 25 coat over the level 30 knife and the level 35 gun, because the level 25 coat gives both attack as well as defense buffs, while the gun and knife only give attack buffs. However, some people prefer using the gun and knife mainly because they give higher crime ops capacity buffs, both from their basic buffs as well as from their alteration buffs. Finally, if you're able to get the level 42 watch, then you should definitely use that since it's far superior to all previous pieces of equipment. Then there are emblems. There are 3 different bulker stats that you can get from emblems: attack, defense, and health. You could also use honor emblems that give 2 different stats to get some more bulker attack or defense in the forge slot. I've covered bulker emblems here since it's a bulker equipment guide. However, I personally prefer using 1 biker defense emblem, 1 biker health emblem, 1 bulker defense emblem, and 1 bulker health emblem in each of the 4 emblem slots for all of my pieces of equipment. But if you're not using bikers at all in your march, then it doesn't make sense to use biker emblems. Finally, let's talk about Roadster Armaments. There are 2 regular armament pieces that give you bulker attack or defense. The Turret Armament, which gives 28.32% bulker attack, which when buffed goes up to 31.15%, and the Artillery Armament gives 22.65% bulker defense, which when buffed gives 24.92% defense. Then there's the Type S Draco Fury set, which gives bulker stats. You'd want to use the full Draco Fury set as all 6 pieces as well as the set buffs give you bulker stats. So I think I've covered the topic of bulker equipment in quite some detail in this post. If you still have any questions about this topic, then be sure to leave them in the comments down below. And if you don't know how to make equipment, then I have 2 videos on this topic. One for regular equipment and the other one for set equipment. I'll leave links to both videos in the description below. Before I end this video, I'd like to thank all of my patrons for the support. If you want to support me, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. So that's all I had for you guys in this video. I hope you guys found the video helpful. Thanks for watching the video guys, and I will see y'all in the next one.